Hi guys, Ian Johnson from driversuccess.com. Today we're going to talk about 3 critical steps to cold calling success in a business-to-business marketplace. So what we're going to do is we're going to cover basically your value assertion, your customer fears and concerns, and how to ask leading questions. I'm going to go through each one of these steps in detail. And what I want to do today is I want to dispel this myth that salespeople, when it comes to cold calling, should be able to get on the phone, use the gift of gab, a bunch of catchphrases and fancy euphemisms, and then all of a sudden turn a prospect into a customer. Because without these tools, they simply can't do that, okay? So we're going to review each one of these in detail, and then I'm going to explain to you what happens when you don't do these things, okay? So the first thing we're going to talk about right here is the value assertion. Essentially, a value assertion is often called a value proposition, but this is simply your message to market. It is your definitive message to market that defines the value that you bring to your customers and to your partners, okay? So the biggest question you want to answer in this case is, what is our value? Now, most companies, when they look at their value assertion, they kind of stick to their internal business strengths. But your value is defined by both your internal business strengths and your external business strengths. And the best way to understand what those strengths are, both internal and external, is through a value chain analysis. Okay? So you want to perform what's called a value chain analysis. Now, I did a video on this value chain analysis, and what this does is it basically forces you to define your internal and external business strengths in terms of starting from your supply chain. So you're going to basically start from your supply chain. Okay, so we'll put S for supply chain. You're going to move to your operations. Then you're going to move to R&D. Okay, and then you're going to move to project management, let's say, and then you're going to move to sales and marketing, and then you're going to move to customer service. Okay, so a value chain analysis forces you to basically define your strengths in each one of your areas within your company. And one of the reasons why you do this is because when you think of a business owner or a high-level executive in a company, they thoroughly understand what the value assertion is, because they either own the company or because they have a position of importance where they interact with each one of these departments. So they thoroughly understand their company's value assertion, much better than perhaps a new salesperson, okay? And the reason why you take the time to do a value chain analysis is because the value that you bring to your market is defined more than just your strengths in sales and marketing and customer service. It's defined by everything, okay? So you may have things that you do in supply chain management that shorten your product to market lead times. You may have strengths in research and development or project management and sales and marketing that increase the speed of your business. So take the time to define your value assertion. Again, I've done a video on value chain analysis, and you don't need your value assertion to be so complicated that your salespeople get on the phone and they regurgitate all this information or they run from a script. That's not the purpose. What the purpose is, once your salespeople understand your company's value assertion, they're then able to tie in questions, which will be covered later on, back into portions of your value within your company. Okay? So take the time, do a value chain analysis. The next thing you want to do is you want to define the unique customer fears and concerns within your industry. Okay? You want to be able to understand exactly what concerns your customers the most. Now, every single customer, no matter what you're selling or who you're selling to, they have fears and concerns, okay? Example would be, you could be the proverbial market leader, you could be the most important company in your market, everybody could know who you are, but to a new customer, it's a complete unknown. They may even know you, but they have no relationship with you. So when you look at fears and concerns, you might want to look at the fear of the unknown, okay? Fear of price. There's all kinds of fears. Fears of quality. All of these fears are defined by your market and your industry. Make sure you cover all of the fears and concerns, because some of your fears and concerns that your customers have may not be addressed by your value assertion. So your salespeople need to understand, you know what, we cover all of these, but we don't cover these ones right here. Unfortunately, we don't address these. But they have to know which ones they address through the value assertion and which ones they don't address, okay? So that is the second step. The third step is to ask leading questions, okay? What you want to do with your questions in a cold call is to use your questions to expose these fears and concerns. You ideally want those questions to be focused on the fears and concerns that your value assertion addresses, not the ones that you don't address. But your salespeople still have to be cognizant of the ones they don't address, not so that they can ignore them, but kind of gradually steer the conversation away from the ones they don't address and onto the ones they do address. Okay? And what you're trying to do, again, is link your fears and concerns that you can address through your value assertion. You want to link them to your value assertion. Okay? So in this case, your salespeople have to understand the value that you bring. Value in terms of your supply chain operations, research and development, project management, sales and marketing, accounting and finance. You may be very flexible with finance with your customers. You may be able to give them extended terms. You have to understand this portion of your value chain analysis. You have to understand the fears and concerns that your customers have. And you have to structure the cold call around asking leading questions that expose these fears and concerns in order to tie it back into your value assertion. Now, what happens when companies don't do this? Well, if you've ever been at home and you get a telemarketing firm call you, what these individuals are faced with is they know that they only have a certain amount of time to catch your attention. So they immediately go on script. And they could talk anywhere from 2 to 3 minutes. Meanwhile, you're just listening to them run on script, and they want to get as much information out as they can. So they try and cover all of their features and benefits. And you're sitting there, or you're standing there, and you're listening to them give you this sales pitch from a script, and you're systematically tearing it apart because none of those things apply to you, or they may already have been addressed with another vendor, or you may not need any of those things. Okay? So when you're faced with a telemarketing call, the reality is that when you don't ask leading questions that expose these fears and concerns, and when you don't tie it back into your value assertion, then you're just talking to your prospect. You're just talking to the customer. Do away with the scripts. Get rid of them. Tear them up. Start with understanding your value assertion. Understand all of the fears and concerns by your customers, even the ones that you can't address. And then ask leading questions in the cold call that expose these fears and concerns, the ones that are addressed by your value assertion. And again, you're not supposed to regurgitate your value chain analysis when you're on the phone with a customer and say we have these strengths in supply chain management, operations, research and development. The purpose here is not to regurgitate this information. The purpose is simply you use these leading questions, address these customer fears and concerns, and then address it back into these portions of your value chain that allow you to help the customer. And the leading questions could be something as simple as, you know what, Mr. Customer, I imagine that quality is an issue. And he or she may say, you know what, you're absolutely right. Failure rates on these product lines are a concern for us. It's an industry concern. And you can follow up with, well, we resolve these issues in terms of quality by making sure that we inspect incoming raw materials. We have a quality control review. We have ECNs. We have corrective action reports. And we have a flow-through process that starts from customer service all the way back to supply chain. When we check for defects, we have statistical process control. So understand the purpose is not to regurgitate your sales pitch. The purpose is not to inundate your customer with a bunch of information that may not apply to him or her. The purpose is to understand your value assertion, understand what concerns your customers, and get them to talk about those concerns by asking leading questions. So that's it. Do away with the sales pitches. Ian Johnson, business-to-business sales, cold calling success. Take care. Bye-bye.